Jennifer Childs. I am the producing artistic director of 1812 Productions.
And I'm Scott Greer, and you're welcome.
And welcome this evening to I Put On Pants for This. And I actually did not. Tonight I put on a skirt for this. I put on a skirt for this. It's
so
too
did
hot.
I.
It's too hot for pants.
It always is.
It always is. So usually at this time, we would be sitting in the theater laughing together, but as we are not able to do that, we're sitting around our dining room table discussing comedy. And in July, actually, what we would usually be doing is at 1812 is we would be hosting the Jilline Ringle solo performance program. And that is a program named after the astonishing 6-foot redhead Amazon from hell whom all men desire, Jilline Ringle, who was a huge part of our 1812 family early on. And it's a program that helps develop and produce solo work by female artists and female identifying artists. So for the past month and for this week and next, we are honoring Jilline by featuring some of the artists who have been through the Jilline program, and tonight is no different. However, before we get there, I am drinking a very boring drink. I am just drinking white wine with ice because, as always, I'm 87. But I am drinking it out of my I'm 50 bitches cup. So
yeah, that's a scale. That's not an age. That's like 50 bitches is a unit of measurement.
Exactly. Like PG-13. That's right.
I am drinking a stimulus package 2.0. It's 2 parts hope, 2 parts desperation, muddled with civics, shake in the House of Representatives, hold the glass like this, and wait for the Senate to pour it. Cheers.
Ching. So one of the things that Jilline would do, so first of all, we have amazing guests tonight. Another amazing Jilline artist and her collaborator. But one of the things that Jilline would do at the beginning of all of her performances of Mando Manja, which was her signature show, is she would do Saint of the Day. So we are going to do Saint of the Day. All right, here we go. Scott doesn't know who it is.
I don't.
I've kept it from him. So here we go. Saint Liborius of Le Mans.
Everybody knows Liborius.
I know. We're always praying to Saint Liborius. So anyway, Saint Liborius, unlike, I find that most female saints are like beheaded or have their limbs torn off or things like that. Most of the male saints were just kind of good guys who ordained some people. And Liborius was a bishop of Le Mans in France. Le Mans, is that right?
Yeah, Le Mans.
Le Mans.
Le Mans. And that's where they have the Grand Prix.
The cars,
I'm gonna bet. I haven't heard yet. I'm gonna bet he's the patron saint of Grand Prix racing.
Auto racing?
Yeah.
Of funny cars, yeah. No. So he was a great guy. 50 years a bishop. He ordained a lot of people. He conquered a lot of heathen druids. There were a lot of
conquered and converted.
Yes, exactly. But it was after he died that things got interesting. So here we go. Now, when you see pictures of Saint Liborius, as one does, all over the place.
Everywhere.
He is often holding a Bible with some rocks on it, and he is standing next to a peacock. And here's why. So St. Liborius dies, and his body's in the cathedral in Le Mans, and there's a lot of limestone in the water there, which leads to, and I did not know this, gallstones. Archbishop Werner von Epstein, no relation to Juan Epstein from Welcome Back, Kotter, comes.
That's not what anyone thought.
That's what I thought when I first read it. Mr. Kater. Okay, comes to St. Liborius' shrine and says, St. Liborius, can you help me? I've got gallstones. And boom, they went away.
So so Liborius was dead long before any of this happened.
Long before.
Okay.
It was 1,000 years later.
Right.
It comes, I need help with my gallstones. Boom. So that's why you see the stones on the Bible in all the pictures.
Gallstones?
They're just rocks.
Okay.
Rocks on the Bible.
Okay.
All right. Then there was a town in Germany, Patersburg, who was like, we don't have a saint in our town. We don't have any relics. Le Mans, you've got all these saints. You've got all these relics. Why don't you let us have one?
So he's on loan.
Le Mans was gifted to Patersburg.
How nice of Le Mans.
And and then taking it, because it was very long ago, there were no cars, he needed to be transported, but they said that a peacock led the way. It was true. Well,
That's amazing.
It was a peacock going before the body of a saint. Yeah. Now, even to this day, there in Powdersburg, there is a Laborafest every year, which I'm not lying, which from pictures looks kind of like a state fair. There's rides.
We're going next year.
There's food. And there is an annual cannonball contest, which they call the Arschbaum, where I am not making this up.
Hey, I believe
this is the lives of the saints, my friends.
This is amazing.
Where people compete.
This is the best saint we've ever had.
All right, people compete by jumping in a pool to see who can create the biggest water splash.
Yeah.
possible.
Oh, that kind of cannonball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of cannonball.
This is awesome.
I know. Last year's winner was Franziska Hanusek from Dresden. So
Congratulations, Franziska.
now, I'm not going to let you see.
Okay.
Saint Liborius of Mons is the patron saint of?
Splashing peacocks.
No, it is the patron saint of gallstones, kidney stones, and gravel.
So, gravel.
Yes.
So in case you have a gravel crisis that you need to pray over,
exactly.
this is who
Sometimes
you invoke.
Your driveway,
Right. If your driveway gets a little thin,
it's all good.
pray to Saint Liborius.
So here you go, Saint Liborius. We're so
Here's to
glad
Saint
to
Liborius.
know you.
That's-
Saint
That
of
is amazing.
the day. Okay, so now from the ridiculous to the sublime, I want to introduce our two guests tonight. You get ready with the second introduction, which is on the phone.
This will take a while.
Our next guest, Pratima Agrawal, is a local performing artist, school administrator, and teaching artist. She's been involved with Philly Theater and Philadelphia Asian Performing Arts, PAPA, since 2014, and was part of PAPA's first performance residency in 2018, which originally generated her solo performance piece, Voided. Voided was further developed as a part of the 2018 Jilline Ringle solo performance residency and funded by the Leeway Foundation's Art and Change Grant for performance at the 2018 Philadelphia Fringe Festival. Voided was also performed as part of the 2018 Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival. She was part of PAPA's first playwriting residency in 2019, which culminated in a staged reading of her full-length play, Bread and Butter, in early 2020. In her free time, as if she has anything, she's so busy. In her free time, she is a volunteer environmental activist with the Philadelphia Ready for 100 Clean Energy Campaign, an advisory board member of Power Street Theater Company, and a member of PAPA's organizing committee. And in just a second, we're going to bring her to the screen. But first, we also want to introduce her collaborator for the process.
Sarah Mitteldorf. Sarah is a theater maker, penguin admirer, puppy scruffler, and she is especially proud of her work with Collide Theater, as in kaleidoscope and collide. She is forever grateful to her collaborators who have given her the chance to grow as a person and an artist.
So please, welcome to the screen. First, Pratima Agrawal. Hello. How are you? And Sarah Mitteldorf.
Hey.
Hello.
I have to, before we say anything, I need you to parse the verb scruffle.
I think is the best way to describe it.
It needs a hand motion.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
You take your penguin and you scruffle it.
That is awesome, and I would like to learn more about your penguin fascination, which we will. But first, Pratima, are you having a cocktail with us this evening, or are you?
I am actually having a pina colada.
Yummy.
Yeah, it's so easy to make. Only 3 ingredients.
Yes. What are the 3 ingredients?
Frozen pineapples, coconut milk, and some rum. That's it.
Awesome. And is that in like a bullet smoothie?
It is in fact in a NutriBullet smoothie maker.
That's obviously the use for that thing, right? Like
So I chose the smaller size on purpose. It comes with a bigger one, and I purposely chose a smaller cocktail size.
Well, we'll work up to it, but
And how about you, Sarah? Are you joining us in a cocktail tonight, or are you?
No, but I can raise a penguin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
Cheers to your
Cheers
penguin.
to your penguin. So I am interested, first of all, Pratima, just tell us a little bit about what Voided was about.
Yeah, so Voided, so it started out, it is a solo performance. It was always a solo performance. So it started out with Papa's mini residency program in 2018. And the origination of the show actually came about because of encouragement from Sarah for me to do a solo show, which I had actually never done before. And she had asked me, is there anything that you're interested in as a topic for a show? And I believe at the time I had kind of come across this biography about Kalpana Chawla, who was the first Indian woman in space. And so I went back and I read the book and I said to her, I think this is something that I would be interested in. So we kind of went from there, and the first iteration of the show is very different from what it ended up being. The first version of it was sort of a straightforward me as myself telling the story, sort of going back and forth between Kalpana Chawla's life and my own experiences. But it was just like a straightforward me telling the stories to the audience as myself. And then, of course, it morphed into something completely different after the residency. But Voided itself, the show is about, talking about what it means to be an unconventional Indian woman in a marginalizing world, because Kalpana Chawla, if you learn about her life, she was very unconventional, not only for her time that she grew up in, but for the culture that she grew up in, very traditional family. And she was constantly bucking tradition, bucking societal expectations. And so it kind of, I was kind of drawing on her experiences as an Indian woman and, what I've experienced as an Indian woman growing up in Indian culture in the US, similar experiences when it comes to personal life, and then my experiences in terms of wanting to pursue a career in the arts. So for most people, you probably know that there's not a whole lot of, Indian people that are pursuing the arts. So it was something that I could very much relate to, this idea of trying to follow what you are passionate about. And that's something that she definitely did.
Where did she grow up and where did you grow up?
So she was born in a state in India called Punjab. And she grew up there her whole life. She didn't leave India until after she finished her undergrad. I actually came to the US with my parents when I was 1 year old. So I basically grew up in the United States. But where I was born it's actually not that far from where I think she grew up. I think the states are kind of right next to each other.
And it's so fascinating to hear that going into the arts is the same as wanting to go into outer space, I'm sure there are probably some other parents across the world who feel that same way, especially now. But
many parents would rather you go to outer space than go into the arts.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So that's interesting. So how did the two of you meet? And what was that what was that collaboration?
Sarah, did you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I was doing a gig at Allen's Lane Art Center, and Pratima showed up for an open call audition. And Pratima had put on her form that due to traveling a pretty far distance, she really wanted to be getting into the theater scene in Philadelphia, but was concerned about time commitment, especially for a basically unpaid community theater gig. They pay a little, but so I couldn't give her a really large role, but I found her fascinating. And so I said, hey, let's talk. And we ended up working together on a number of projects. She did a lot of work with us with Collide, this small ensemble that we ran for a number of years. And yeah, we got super into each other's lives and discovered that we both really like pizza. But I'm consistently in awe of Pratima's depth as an artist. And I think that was when Pratima was like, oh, right, we had this conversation about like Sarah saying you should consider doing a solo piece. She'd been talking so much about her goals as an artist and as a writer. And I'd also seen her, she can flourish in one rehearsal as a performer. And I just really wanted to see her take those next steps because she's always had that potential and that ability. So psyched.
Wow, that's a good person to have in the room with you. Somebody who is that kind of cheerleading. That's awesome. So how did the collaboration work? You know, sort of how did you all go back and forth with each other, both prior to and during the residency?
Yeah, so Sarah is very good at pulling a lot out of you. She really works really hard, but she's a brilliant artist. She's a brilliant director, and so she starts with usually asking a lot of questions. And what is it that interests you about the story? Why this story? Why right now? Things like that. And so the process really started with like asking a lot of questions. And then, sort of going through Kalpana's life based on the book that I was using as the primary research resource. And then kind of just going through her biography and saying like, what are like sort of the important events in her life that you think, you might want to explore. And then also kind of going through maybe parallel events in my own life that I might want to explore. And then we kind of just like narrowed it down to what we wanted to focus on. And then that's kind of how it started.
A lot of bullet lists.
Yeah, a lot of bullet lists. Yeah.
Wow. And what did you find were those sort of parallels? You spoke a little bit about like growing up in a very traditional household. What were some of the other sort of parallels that you found between the two of you?
Well, I mean, so like I said, she was very unconventional. So for example, at the time that she was living in India, it was, coming from a very traditional family, it was, pretty common for girls as soon as they finish high school or college to just get married off. And that's her father's intention right after she finished school, maybe even after high school, was to just marry her off. And she definitely wanted to go to college, and she had aspirations to further her studies in aerospace engineering and come to the United States. And so she actually defied her father's wishes to like get a further education and like come to the US. And like I can definitely relate to that in my own personal life in terms of like marriage and like wanting to pursue the arts, because my parents, I touch on this in the piece sort of comedically, but like, I've had experiences with my parents of like trying to set me up with people and like thinking that, it's time for you to like do this and settle down and whatnot. And, how a career in the arts is not exactly what they had in mind for me. And so those were like examples of parallels that I could kind of relate to.
Yeah. And Sarah, I remember during the residency, there was a lot of experimentation, which I found to be really exciting. And I don't know if you want to talk about like what those experiments were, what stayed, what ended up going, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think one thing that the residency was so wonderful for was giving us a break from time pressure. Especially, I think this is always true in the arts, but I think that the lower your funding, the more it's true. And so solo work and work with ensembles that don't have the financial establishment of other groups, I feel this pressure especially. And it's hard to play around and discover really, really new things, because you're always like, well, we have 3 days to make 3 scenes because we have to go up. And I just really was so excited to have a space where we could mess up and not even necessarily know that this was going to be specifically produced afterwards, although I think you had already been making plans to do this at the Fringe, but there was a whole rehearsal time period after the residency. So we literally talked about, how can we break this piece? Like, how can we get in there and do things that I know I felt very unsure about at times, because Pratima and I, it's very important that we think about the social consequences of the way that we work. And that's still very important to me. But that also means that we can't mess around with like trying on voices and styles where we're not sure what the social ramifications of the thing that we're doing is, trying on saying things that we don't usually think are really appropriate to say, and find out what is the legitimacy in that, and is there space? And sometimes the answer is no, there's a reason we were avoiding that. But sometimes we were able to find like, oh, there's a real opportunity in which we can be both true to ourselves, but explore something that we just didn't have access to. Otherwise, yeah, so we were just like, yeah, we're gonna destroy this piece and like try things that like we had decided not to do before. Like, oh, I don't think it's appropriate for me to speak for this group of people because I don't have that experience, and that is to me a really iffy space when you're working in the arts. How do you not accident, like that brings you into appropriation issues, or that brings you into stepping into, yeah. You know what I'm saying. I don't need to finish the sentence. So we got to like do those things, and like, and we found in that voices and characters that we would not have found otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, just before, I don't know, for people who don't know Kalpana, can you sort of talk about her career as an astronaut and her time in the space program and all of that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So she came to the US in 1982 after getting her undergrad in aeronautical engineering. She came and got admission to the University of Texas at Arlington in their aerospace engineering program to get her master's. That is where she actually met her future husband. And then she went on to get a second master's and a PhD in aerospace engineering from forgot the name of the university, but somewhere in Colorado. And then after that, she applied to NASA. I believe she did not get into NASA right away for their astronaut program, but she did get hired in a different capacity with NASA. And she worked in that capacity for a few years. And then she was eventually accepted into their astronaut corps program, I believe in 1995 or 96. And then she went on her first space mission in 1997. She was the only woman on that space mission. She became the first Indian woman to be in space from that mission. And then she went on a second mission in 2003. She was one of 2 women on that mission. And that is unfortunately the mission that she lost her life from. When the shuttle was re-entering the Earth, it blew up, and yeah.
That's amazing. So she was young then. She was young.
Yeah. I mean, she left India when she was 20, so she had her undergrad already when she was 20, and so I mean, she was incredibly smart. And then she went on to get her PhD. So it was a very short time after getting her PhD and then going into NASA that she like lost her life. So she was very young.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to come up in just a second on, I'm going to ask Pratima to share a monologue from the piece, but I'm also interested because, you were saying, Sarah, like a part of the residency was like, let's play around with all these different voices. And it sounds like in the beginning, it was kind of a storytelling voice of yours and maybe a little bit of Chawla's, but in the end, how many different sort of character voices, how many different people did you end up playing?
Pratima, do you have a number for that?
Yeah. So there's 5 characters in the final version. I actually have a character version of myself. I have a fictionalized version of Kalpana Chawla, who in the piece is referred to as KC, purposely because we didn't want to make it seem as if we're trying to portray an accurate version of her. There is a character named Wilbur, who is a university professor. There is an alien, and there is a character whose monologue that I'm going to be performing called The Voice of Status Quo.
Wow. I'm amazed there's not a penguin as well.
Yeah, penguin didn't quite make it into the piece. We have to cut that.
Yeah, they tried. They always make a go for it.
Yeah.
No, that'll,
well, let's do it again. If you're ready, let's give the screen over to Pratima.
Before we do, we just want to say, if you're watching and
Yes.
Are on Facebook Live, feel free to comment and ask questions. Our producer Lily is waiting to relay those. So yeah, but.
Yes. But for right now, let's give the screen over to Pratima and this is a monologue you said from The Voice of Status Quo.
Yes. We're tired of the lies. We're tired of hearing one lie after the next. First, it's those liberals on the left lying to us every day about what they stand for, telling us they're not okay with just letting anyone pour into our country, when we all know that they are. Then it's companies like Apple telling us we need more smartphones, more gadgets, faster computers. And now it's NASA. NASA wants us to believe that all we need to do is throw more money into space research. They want our money going into science and technology, as if that's going to keep us safe. I mean, science is just a theory. You know, the day my oldest daughter was born, and the first time her little hand held my finger, I just knew. I just knew I had to keep her safe. And I knew it would get it done. But it's a tough world out there. Can't always believe what you hear. And you know that NASA, the one getting money from our government, well, they spend our tax dollars hiring. You ever hear about this woman named Kalpana Chawla? A woman from India comes here and gets hired by, you guessed it, NASA in the 1980s. That's right, NASA's been pulling a fast one on us for years. If NASA's been doing it since forever, what about the rest of government? What do you think they've been doing since the 1980s? Well, I can tell you this much. It ain't helping us. No more lies. No more lies. Say it with me. No more lies. No more lies.
Woo-hoo!
Awesome.
That was awesome. And we'll bring Sarah back here too. That's great. So I am super interested, first of all, and we'll have a question in just a second, Lil, but so how does that kind of like fit into this whole story? That's really fascinating.
Yeah, so clearly this character, is very anti-immigrant, is very doesn't want things to change. But in general, this character is sort of representative of the political lackey cult following of our current occupant of the White House, that doesn't want to see this country changing the way it's changing. And so it ties, this character is sort of on the periphery of the entire piece, but we kind of revisit this character at different moments. And this character is, basically speaking to an audience of, political supporters. And so, we kind of learn about Kalpana Chawla through this character in different ways. And we see this character's, resistance to things changing around him.
I remember both of you talking about that a little bit. It's like, what are the different ways that we get access to people's lives other than voting, right? this person was born in 1960, like that there's that, and how dynamic that is, especially in solo performance, to learn through the voice of somebody else. So where did this come from? Was that a prompt from you? Was it something that from you, Sarah, or was it something that you both kind of found together?
We did a lot of thinking about the questions and the issues that were coming up and the themes that we had pulled out that had been important to us from the original version that we loved, that we wanted to be able to then push in a new way. And I remember one day, because you have this lovely blackboard in your rehearsal space, and we covered the blackboard with just questions about, I mean, we really wanted to look at fear, and we wanted to look at hope and creativity, and because I think fear is a really big part of how we negotiate breaking the status quo or being different, and why is that a problem, and what are the fears that we have related to that, and creativity and humanity and life, and all that fun stuff. So what I tend to annoyingly do a lot with my collaborators is just keep going for what is the question that you can't answer without doing this, because if you can answer it, then we can make an essay. And getting into the heart of, and I don't remember right now exactly what each question was, but each of these characters came out of a question about one of the themes that we had, where we were just like, we don't actually understand this about life. We don't understand this part of what fear looks like, or we don't understand what this part of being torn between different worlds. That's one thing that I found that Pratima as a person was able to relate to with Kalpana, and that experience of having these multiple cultures as a core part of identity, and then also the challenge then of like bringing that to the work as an artist, as a creator, as an adventurer. So that's as far as I can get on that question right now.
It makes me think about the MIT and Stanford and the recent lawsuit, because they were going to revoke the visas of students if we have to in the fall go to all online learning, that they were going to send all non-US citizens, back home. And I just, you're sort of like, well, what if they sent her home? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's, I don't know. It's,
I'm interested to know, so as I think I said earlier, there's a tradition of telling your own story. There's a tradition of telling someone famous' story. And the fact that you put these two together, did you learn something about yourself at all through this process and through the study of this other person?
Well, I learned that Kalpana was definitely way smarter and a lot better at a lot of things than I am.
Literally a rocket scientist.
Yeah, literally a rocket scientist. So there's that. She was actually, the other thing that I learned about it is like she was incredibly fearless. And there's like small anecdotes in the biography about like there was one story about how they were visiting some canyon or something, and how there's usually like a railing, you can't go past this railing because it's like too dangerous. And she was just like, no, I'm going to go past this railing. I'm going to sit right on the edge of the cliff. Like stuff like that would freak the hell out of me. Like she was just an incredibly fearless person. I don't consider myself incredibly fearless. That was one thing I definitely learned, that she just just went, full speed ahead with anything that she wanted to do. And, she knew that there was a danger of losing her life in space. And, not that there's a fear of necessarily losing my life in the arts, but it's possible. But she, that didn't stop her. And, she loved flying so much. She was so passionate about it that, she just went full speed ahead with it.
amazing. Lily, do we have a question?
We do. This question comes from Patricia, who wants to know, how does Pratima's character version of herself differ from her real self?
Yes,
Patricia wants to know
Which version
differ from the real version.
I would say the character version is a much heightened version of me, and it's like, you know, kind of, there's like one kind of extreme circumstance in the piece. Yeah, I think it's definitely a much heightened version of me. I don't know if you would agree, Sarah.
Well, your character version for the second iteration of the piece was also not nearly as intelligent as you. And I think that was important so that you could get in and do the things that you wanted to do. But your character was kind of like miffed and a little angry at a lot of things because your character sort of like didn't understand a lot of how all these different pieces work together.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it might be helpful to understand that there's sort of a meta aspect to the piece where I, Pratima, as the character, am writing this play about Kalpana Chawla. And so all these other characters like are in my play, and then I'm commenting on my play as the writer, and things are happening to me as the playwright. And so there's like one monologue in the piece where like somebody like shreds up my script, and I'm just like, who like broke into my apartment and ripped up my script, and like, so it's just like I think it's like a heightened version of me throughout the piece. Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should mention who that character was who had come in and.
Yeah, so apparently Casey, Kalpana Chawla. So Casey finds out that I'm writing a play about her life. And she's like, who is this person writing a play about me? Like, what does she do? What's this theater thing? And so she apparently, as a ghost, because Casey in the play is a ghost, apparently took my script and read it and shredded it to pieces.
That's amazing.
And cut out every reference to her name and replaced it with Casey because of that issue of like, how are you speaking for me? You don't get to speak for me. But also, also just like the fun of being like, oh, this ghost of Casey, like we get to go all the way with like, this is not Kalpana, but also has really strong feelings about what we're doing with Kalpana's story.
That's amazing.
Amazing. And
how was it to do it at the Philly Fringe? And did the audience change anything for you?
It was really exciting. It was my first Philly Fringe, so I didn't really know what to expect. It was incredibly grueling to be producer, writer, performer of everything. But you know, overall the experience was great. Nothing necessarily changed based on the audiences, I don't think. I think it pretty much stayed the same.
Will you do it?
I don't know. Like after the Philadelphia Asian Film Festival, I think I was kind of at a point of exhaustion. And so like I kind of put it to rest. But you know, if the opportunity presents itself and I feel like it's like the right opportunity, then I would consider it. It's an incredibly grueling piece to do. There's 5 different characters. So
no, I think that's something we don't talk about a lot is that we forget. It's like
solo performance is not for the weak of heart. Yeah,
it's hard, which is why I never did it before.
And I think there's something really fun about like the scene partner is your scene partner is the audience, right? And that becomes. But when you're dealing with a different scene partner every single night, you have to be really, really ready. You know, there's no sitting back. It's like
yeah. Right. And I mean, there were like a couple of performances where like, you know, audiences would react. And the thing is that like, you never know what an audience is going to react to, what they're going to find funny, what they're not going to find funny, whatnot. And so like, or when they're going to maybe talk back to you, when they're not going to talk back to you. So like, you know, there were instances where like, I wasn't expecting anybody to like talk back to me or say anything. And like, you know, we had that. But so yeah, I mean, solo performance, I give so much credit to people who do it on a regular basis because it is hard work.
Well, it sounds, Sarah, like you're the instigator. Like you should consider solo work. Have you ever done a solo piece?
Pardon?
Have you ever done a solo piece?
Oh no, I don't perform. Yeah, I have huge respect for performers, and I don't have that sort of capacity to just sit in my own uncomfortability that I think is essential to performance. So I try to at least carry that level of respect with me and in the way that I work. And I believe that it makes me better at the things that I do. So it's important for me to acknowledge that. But I run into people who are like, oh, don't say that. Like, don't be down on yourself. And I'm like, it's not me being down on myself. It's me trying to really have respect for what it takes to do different jobs and different jobs that are all necessary. And so I have huge respect for people who can sort of hold that space inside of themselves.
So she's kind of lying because she used to do Irish step dancing.
That's true.
And she was really good.
What?
Yeah.
Your next solo show.
Yeah, there are pictures of me with like the ringlet wig in my full getup, and I definitely had a collaborator who went, "Now I understand what you mean when you say sometimes you have really thought you're white."
Oh, and she used to do.
If I'm not buying a ticket to Penguin Dance in 2 years, I'm going to be really mad.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, she used to do Ariel.
Yeah.
Well,
that was fun.
So we have, at the end of every session with people, we have our version of the Inside the Actors Studio
Yes.
questions. So we'll start with Pratima, and then we'll go to Sarah. But Scott, why don't you begin?
Okay, these are all very, very important soul-searching questions, so sort of steel yourself. Pratima, what is your favorite sandwich?
Oh, favorite sandwich. Well, I'm vegetarian, so I would have to say that like a veggie burger.
Is there one in particular that, like, when you want that, you have to go to this place or whatever? Like, is there one?
So I do like. It's not necessarily my favorite, but I do really like BurgerFi's veggie burger. I don't know if you know the chain BurgerFi, but they make really good veggie burgers.
That's amazing.
Fantastic.
Sarah.
It's your fault that I've had any of those. Favorite sandwich?
Yes.
So I've never been a huge sandwich person. And then the following thing happened this year, which is COVID. And I've been finally getting better at cooking. So I tried this recipe, which is for this peanut butter tofu, like baked tofu with vegan mayonnaise stuff and greens. And what made it really good is that I got halfway into making the sandwich and realized we were out of bread. So I baked bread, which made my sandwich take like 6 hours longer to get than I expected. But it was really good. But I think it's really less the content and more like if you make a sandwich with really fresh bread, it's just a good sandwich.
Yeah, slow sandwich. Slow sandwich is the key. That's fantastic. Pratima.
Mm-hmm.
What is your least favorite sandwich?
Anything with meat, I guess. Since I don't eat meat. Yeah, I'll go with anything with meat.
Anything with meat. Sarah, same question.
I'm also a vegetarian, and what I found is when you tell people you're a vegetarian and they try and like provide food, it's always like a sandwich stuffed with cheese and more cheese. And I'm dairy averse, like, but even before I like had issues with very physical issues that we don't need to discuss on live stream, I was just like, this is just like cheese on top of cheese on top of cheese inside of bread.
Not a lot of imagination.
I can relate to that, yes. Yeah.
All right, Pratima, what or whom makes you laugh?
What or whom makes me laugh? Well, lately, I've seen a few like older episodes of SNL sketches. Like, I mean, like last 6 or 7 years, and some of them were just hilarious. So I've seen a couple recently that I just found really hilarious.
People in them that you like.
I just thought the creativity of it was so good. For example, I don't know if you saw the episode where they, you know how they do like these pre-recorded commercials? Mm-hmm. So they did one on woke jeans, like woke Levi jeans. It was hysterical.
Writing that down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're good.
How about you, Sarah? What or who makes you laugh?
Lately, I'm really glad I got to go second. Thank you so much. So lately, we have this dog. She's adorable. She's a pit mix. She's got this really high-pitched squeaky bark, which does not match. It's really incongruous with her face. And we like to voice for her, like what she's saying. And we find this really entertaining. I don't think it works outside of like the immediate family. And then recently we started voicing for her, reacting to us voicing for her, and just being like, you people are so unintelligent about how the world works. Like, why do you think that's what I say all day long? Like, come on, I know I'm a dog. I have paws. Like, this isn't hard. Who gave you opposable thumbs?
Amazing. She's judging your content.
She's judging.
Yes, she 100% has been judging my content for, you know, the 3 months that we've been in the house.
That's amazing. The same thing happens with our daughter. What or whom makes you cry?
I would say, like, inhumanity, seeing people suffer in general. I think that does make me cry.
Yep. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, Pratima has such a good heart. Honestly, right now, like almost anything. I'm a crier to begin with, and just everything is really stressful, and self-care is really important right now. But like I am just like ready to cry all the time right now.
Boy, oh boy.
Is that cool to say out loud publicly? I don't know. But
no, absolutely. It could be, I'm not able to find the can opener. That's reason enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. All right, Pratima, who would play you in the movie of your life?
Oh my God. Well, considering there aren't a whole lot of actors out there of Indian descent, well, actually, so there's a new Netflix series out called Never Have I Ever, that is based on an Indian family, and I would say maybe like the teenage daughter in that show.
That's great.
Yeah.
Never Have I Ever. We will check it out. How about you, Sarah?
It's a fun show. I'm really bad at this. May I make a request then?
Yeah.
I would like to be played by a chorus of multiple people, because I am consistently always not connected properly with myself. And I think that this would be the best way for me to A, not have to choose an answer for this question, and B, that's how I would, I think, recognize myself the most, interpretation-wise.
Love it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Love it.
I am so grateful to have spent this time with both of you. I have learned a lot. Yeah. I'm really excited to watch Never Have I Ever, but also I'm really excited to hear more about what you all are doing. Pratima, PratimaAgrawal.com. And Sarah, do you have a website or any place that we can find out more about what you're doing?
Yes, SarahM.net. I'm supposed to finish making, so it's got some vague stuff up right now. I think it still has voided right now. Because my energy has been going into other places rather than updating my website. But that's one place. And then Collide, as in kaleidoscope, just chop off the end of the world, collidetheater.org. Also has not been updated in a while, but that has a lot of the work that Pratima and I did before we got to this piece.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Well, we want to say thank you to both of you for being here. We want to say thank you to our studio producer, Ben Levan, our in-house producer, Lily Greer. Our sponsor for I Put on Pants for This is my sister's new pug,
Vito
Child, who says on behalf of
so
dogs.
cute. Yes. The scruffling is scandalous.
He says on behalf of dogs everywhere, we are glad you're here. From both of us and from all of us here at 1812, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.